Well, for those that were here a couple weeks ago, you know that we started a series entitled Something Snapped. We began the series by looking at the battle of the mind and what happens when we don't allow God to have control of our thought life. In fact, Romans chapter 12 says we need the renewing of our minds as well as the renewing of our hearts. Well, this morning we're going to look at part 2 of Something Snapped, and it's going to be referring to snapping under stress. Now, how many of you here ever had a stressful moment? I think all hands could go up. We've all participated in this thing called stress, and this morning we're also going to discover that God's Word has something to say about the stress that you and I may be going through. I appreciate the songs that the praise team picked out today. Some of you felt pretty worn in your life. Like there's just been one episode after another, and you felt frail and broken, and tears have flown from your eyes, and probably even from your lips you prayed out for God to bring some kind of relief. And then the other song, to hold on. When you're going through those moments, don't let go of God. Something is brewing in the background. He's about ready to do something wonderful. Well, James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4 tells us this. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. I think James was a troubled individual, don't you? I mean, he says when trials come, when troubles come, when stress comes, consider it an opportunity for joy. Not only joy, but great joy. Well, let's continue our reading. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you'll be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Well, this morning I want to begin by letting you know that God has always intended for you to have a joyful life. When we talk about life in essence of a relationship with Jesus Christ, we recognize that Jesus himself said, I have come to give you life. But how did he come to give it to us? Abundantly, which means joyfully. That's the purpose that God has for you. That's the design he has for you. He never intended for you and I to live miserable lives. But one of the things that often gets in the way of us enjoying life to its fullest, enjoying life abundantly, is this little word called stress. And by the show of hands, we've all experienced it. We've all had to deal with some kind of circumstance or situation that has put us under severe pressure. And what's really bad about all of that is oftentimes we don't even know how to control the pressure, how to control that situation that is making us feel the way we feel. So whenever we're going through such periods of high stress, I would have to say those are not enjoyable times. Even though James says there are opportunities for joy, I don't think you and I are smiling when we're walking through them. In fact, when we are going through stress that is so bad that we get stressed out, they're probably the most miserable times in our life. When I was pastoring in Arkansas, in Rogers, Arkansas, I had to take a part-time job in order to compensate pennies of my salary. So I worked for the airport for a private service called Jim's Express Shuttle. Now, if you know anything about Rogers, Arkansas, right next to Rogers is Bentonville, which is the home place for Walmart. That's their home office. Over 32 different offices throughout Bentonville and Rogers are housing Walmart CEOs and personnel. So most of the people flying in that we dealt with were connected in some way or another with Walmart. Well, I'd only been there for a week, still getting lost in the job, not knowing my way around, and on one occasion the boss says, Norm, I want you to help me out. We have to take some clothes to one of the companies right here on the Walmart facility because they're doing a fashion show. So we had all the clothes that were flown in. We had them lined up just the way the show people were going to display them. took them, unloaded them. Then he took off, he radioed me and says, I'll see you in a few minutes back at the airport. And I don't even know where I'm at. I have no idea where the airport's at. I have no idea how to get to the airport. I'm stressed, severely stressed, because I know that if I don't get to the airport in a certain amount of time so that I can start carting other passengers where they're going, I'm going to lose my job. So I have to also let you know that the intercom system that we used to talk on the walkie-talkie, every other driver hears it. So if I were to say, dispatcher please, I'm lost, not only is it every other driver hear it, every other passenger, every other driver hears it, and my boss hears it. So, again, I'm frustrated, to say the least. I get my cell phone out, call the dispatcher on my cell phone, and say, look, I'm new here, and I'm lost, completely lost. That lady was so kind to me, she said, Norm, look, I'm going to tell you where to go. There's a passenger that needs to be picked up and brought to the airport, and you're only a mile away. I'm going to direct you to that passenger's house, and then direct you by cell phone back to the airport. She says, 2 things will be accomplished. You will make the boss look really good because you're picking up a passenger, and you'll be back at the airport in time to do whatever other runs he has lined up for you. Great lady. But I want you to know the stress I was under in those moments was critical. And many times when I'm going under such stress, I find myself looking around at other people and envying their life. Have you done that? Like, man, why aren't they going through the same thing I'm going through? I mean, I love Jesus. I worship Him. I serve Him. Why am I going through these battles and they just seem to have such a wonderful life? Well, being in ministry as long as I have, I discovered this one thing. Everybody's got issues. Don't you agree? And I discovered something else. I bet there's people that looked at my life and envied me because I don't have the same stress they have. And they probably said, why doesn't the pastor have to go through these things? Well, according to the American Institute of Stress, stress has been described as the #1 health problem in America. I quote, the stress response of the body is somewhat like an airplane getting ready for takeoff. Virtually all systems, the heart, blood vessels, immune system, the lungs, the digestive system, the sensory organs, and even the brain are modified to meet the perceived danger. Our bodies do not know the difference between an actual threat and a perceived threat. All our bodies know is how to react to what the brain tells it. Let me have you participate in a little illustration. I want you to close your eyes right now. Just close your eyes and, well, you know what? That's not a really good idea because some of you are going to go to sleep. Just try to be patient with me for a few seconds here. Close your eyes, and now imagine you're at the very top of the Empire State Building. Okay, you're at the very top. Now I want you, in your mind, to walk over to the edge. Be sure to grab the handrail. Now lean your body and look over the edge of the Empire State Building. Wow, those cars look like ants down there, don't they? Be careful you don't fall. Okay, now you can open up your eyes. How many were feeling a little stressed? Okay, there's some hands going up. Why? You never left your seat. You were on top of the Empire State Building, but your mind was playing out the visual, wasn't it? You saw yourself at the top of the Empire State Building, and you also saw the danger if you got too close to the edge and were to fall off. Okay, now you can breathe and relax. In the moments we have remaining, I want to take a look at 3 thoughts that come from James in reference to this thing called stress, the battle of our emotions. The first 2 they may seem a little difficult for us to swallow, but we have to go ahead and walk through them anyway. Number one, stress is unavoidable in life, even in the life of a Christian. There's never going to be a time in your life until Jesus calls you home where you're not going to have to deal with stress on some level. Now, in order to understand that, we first need to understand what we're talking about when we talk about this word stress. So let me give you a definition, and I hope I also placed it in your sermon notes that are in your outline. Stress is negative pressure applied to your emotions because of perceived adverse or threatening circumstances. Now, it doesn't mean those circumstances are actually there, but you perceive them to be there. These adverse or threatening circumstances. So it's important to note that stress in itself is emotional. You feel stress. If you don't have a negative emotional reaction to a situation, there's no stress involved. None whatsoever. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Suppose at 11 p.m. at night, there's a knock at your door. You open up the door and there's two police officers standing there. And they say, "Are you so-and-so?" What happens? Now, if you're like my wife and I, who raised 4 kids, we never want to see police officers at our door, at any time, day or night. But if there's 2 police officers standing at your door 11 o'clock at night, calling you out by name, your stress level goes out the ceiling, doesn't it? What is about to happen? Now, let me add some further information. Suppose at 10 o'clock at night, you receive a phone call. It's the police department. And they say, "Now listen, don't worry. The reason for our phone call is somebody turned in your wallet that contained your driver's license, your credit cards, and a lot of money, and we're going to send out 2 officers at 11 o'clock to return your wallet and your belongings to you." So now at 11 o'clock, when you hear the knock at the door, and you open it, and there's 2 police officers standing there and ask if you're so-and-so, you're relieved. You're not stressed because they have your wallet, and they have your license, your credit cards, and hopefully the money's still in the wallet. So you feel good about it. So the purpose of sharing that is stress is not caused by the situation itself. Stress is the negative emotional pressure that happens due to the fact that we perceive something being adverse or threatening. Whether it is or isn't, that's where stress is coming from. The Greek word that's translated trials or troubles in our text from James is the exact same Greek word that can be translated temptations elsewhere in our scriptures. Now, I thought that kind of interesting. Why do they use the same Greek word, but here it's troubles and trials? In other places, it's temptations. And then it dawned on me. Because a trial or a trouble is a situation that can tempt us to indulge in ungodly behavior to escape the pressure, to escape the stress. In other words, a trial is a situation that puts you under emotional pressure, and also you may respond in such a way that you don't have to face the adverse or threatening circumstances, which means you may face or act in an ungodly way. Let's look at the verse again. There's some other words that seem to pop out. First of all, it says, "Count it all joy," or a joyful opportunity when you fall to various trials. Not if you fall into various trials, when you fall into various trials. Which tells me trials are going to happen. They're a fact of life for even the most spiritual Christian. And then when troubles come your way, when they come your way, which also implies sometimes the troubles, these circumstances are not your fault at all. They're just means by which God is trying to help you grow in your faith and in your maturity. Some situations are totally unavoidable. And I recognize we put ourselves in a lot of problems that we don't need to, but here is talking about those things that happen just because of life itself. And the more you grow and mature as a Christian, the more you begin to step out and do things for God, the more you're on a mission for Him, I dare say sometimes the greater the stress is going to be as you walk through life. So, stress is unavoidable. But here comes point number 2. Stress is not only unavoidable in your life, sometimes it's necessary. We have to go through stress. James goes on to say, for you know that when your faith is tested, and your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you'll be perfect and complete, needing nothing. So the way to become perfect, and I'm not talking about never having any faults, never making mistakes. It's not that kind of perfect. But the way to be fully mature, to grow in your relationship with Jesus, is by passing the test of faith, which results from the trials or the stresses we have to deal with in life. That is why if you've had absolutely no stress in your life, you really would never become a mature, complete Christian. Now, I shared this in the first service, and I was really thinking not to share it in the second service, but I'm going to give it a shot anyhow. And you'll understand as soon as I said the first words off my lips why I should not share this. My wife, Penny, has caused a lot of stress in my life. In fact, I'm married to a stress agent.
You don't have tomatoes to throw at her.
We're going out to eat afterwards, so I don't have to worry about lunch. I might be driving myself there. Now, listen, before you're wondering if there's any real problems in our relationship, I want you to know if any one of you are married here, you're married to a stress agent. That's really part of God's plan. Penny has introduced stress in my life, and I'll tell you how and why. She's introduced stress in my life in a loving way by pointing out some of the areas I really need to change in. I've come from a very dysfunctional family, and folks know that. I did not know how to love, how to extend love, or even how to receive love. If I'm going to be a minister, if God called me to this capacity, I better know how to love people, right? I better know how to love myself. My wife was the one that pointed out in a gracious way how to love, how to grow in love, how to deal with my temper tantrums, because I have temper tantrums, how to deal with this fact of always jumping to conclusions, how to deal, that list can go on and on. I don't even want to get into it. I'm just saying because God brought her into my life, she pointed out some things that I had to change in. And even though it stressed me at the moment, I am a much better person today because God gave me her. God placed her in my life for a time in which I needed it. And you know what? When we look at stress as being a motivator, we look at it in a whole different vein, don't we? As something that we need so that we can change. And that's why God says when you are facing stressful circumstances in your life, instead of moaning, groaning, and complaining, rejoice. Count it all joy because it shows that God is at work in your life through these stressful circumstances. Listen, until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, you won't. Let me reword it. Until being the way you are stresses you out so bad that you want to make a difference in your life, until that change agent is at work, you're going to continually be the same. The greatest times of spiritual growth happens when things are not easy. However, they motivate you to seek God's help to bring change. And when you pray for God to help you to grow and develop spiritually, you are asking Him you're actually allowing Him to put you through periods of stress. Stress can be God's engine for change in your spiritual life. And that brings me now to the last point. There may be stress in your life. It's unavoidable. At times it's necessary. However, you never have to be stressed out. Now, I brought a chair up here, and I'm going to sit on this chair, not just because I'm tired, but for the example of the fact that I just put stress on this chair. I'm stressing the chair right now. Some of you are grinning. You know, you're stressing the pew, so get that little smirk off your face. You're stressing the pew. But guess what? Even though I'm stressing the chair, I haven't stressed the chair out. It has the capacity to hold my stress. That's the way it should be in the Christian life. Although we have stress in our lives, it doesn't have to deform us or stress us out, because we have Christ in our life who gives us the ability to stand up under the pressure. He gives us that capacity. That's why God's Word says that we can do all things through Christ, who gives us strength. The key to making it through stressful situations and circumstances without being stressed out is to see your circumstance not as something threatening to your life, to do damage to your life, but it's that which God's allowed in your life, and He's already made provision, whether you've seen it yet or not, for you to be victorious over it. If you can see God's work in your life, and I'm going to ask the praise team right now to come back to the platform. If you can see God's work in your life, and in each situation, if you believe that He has all of this under control and won't let go beyond what is necessary for the maximum growth in your life and who you are, the situation may not immediately disappear. It may not immediately dissolve itself, but the negative emotions that are the substance of stress will now have no power over you. Amen to that? Amen. So we're going to stand together to take the stress off the pews, and we're going to share in song what a friend we have in Jesus. Because it's that relationship that's going to get us through the tough times, the stressful times of life.